So shall we begin?
I think we should begin because it's 5 minutes past 3 and we should...
Yes. So, hello friends. Welcome to Kizuna India-Japan Study Forum. The Kizuna India-Japan Study Forum was formed by Indian scholars of Japanese studies who are members of MOSAI, or the Mombusho Scholars Association of India, in September 2022. And since then, we have been holding monthly seminars. And the objectives are to explore and document the lesser known or under-researched aspects of India-Japan historical and cultural interactions, and disseminate the findings through lectures, seminars, conferences, and publications. The forum has held one international conference in February 2023, and the papers presented in the conference are now published under the title Geographies of Exchange between India and Japan. The next 3-day conference is scheduled to be held in March, on 6th, 7th, 8th March in New Delhi, and it will be in hybrid mode. All are welcome to attend it via Zoom. There is no registration fee. The Kizuna Forum, as I mentioned, also holds lectures on a monthly basis. Today's talk by Dr. Lopamudra Malik, Associate Professor in the Department of Japanese Studies, Dhaka University, is the 21st in Kizuna lecture series. She will be speaking on 20th century Japan as observed by 7 Bengali women. In early 20th century, several Bengali women defying the age-old taboo on traveling across Kalapani had sailed to Japan. Lokmudra will talk on the experiences of 7 notable women. Let me introduce Lokmudra. She is an associate professor in the Department of Japanese Studies, Dhaka University, did her graduation in Japanese language from Vishwa Bharati Shantiniketan and post-graduation from the University of Delhi. She did her PhD from Dhaka University on the topic Japanese Studies in Bengal from 1863 to 1947. Her area of interest is Japanese literature, culture, and society. She has published several research articles both in national and international journals. Welcome, Lopamudra, to Kizuna India-Japan Study Forum. Let me welcome and introduce the chair, Dr. Devjani Sengupta. She is an associate professor of English in Indraprasth College, University of Delhi. She did her post-graduation from Jadavpur University, Kolkata, and PhD from Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi. She is the author of The Partition of Bengal, Fragile Borders and New Identities. And she has also written on Bangla science fiction, 19th century Bangla theatre. And she has also translated a number of short and long fictions from Bangladesh and West Bengal, and which have been published in various anthologies. Welcome, Devjani. And now I request you to conduct the session.
Thank you so much, Shashilaji. I am very grateful to the Kizuna India-Japan Study Forum for inviting me to this session with Dr. Malik. And I am deeply interested in this question that is going to be engaged with today, which is a very important aspect of the anti-colonial nationalist struggle in the early years of 20th century Bengal, because all these women figures that she is going to take up were in a very interesting way, connected with the anti-colonial movement, both in political as well as ideological senses. So I'm very interested in the question of Stri Shadhinata, or women's independence, and that I think would come up very obliquely and directly in the talk. And I am very delighted to welcome Dr. Lopamudra Malik from Dhaka University, and I can now welcome her also to the forum. And Dr. Malik, the forum is all yours now. So
thank you so much.
You have, I think, till 3:35 for your lecture, which is now 3:15. So maybe 3:40, Shushilaji? 3:40 or 3:45, because we began a little late.
Okay, 3:40. Let it be 3:45.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Dr. Malik, please go ahead.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Kizuna, for giving me this opportunity to deliver my lecture. I'm very nervous. This is like a demo class to me. Saying something from my teachers. I will try my best. Thank you so much. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Yes. I'm sharing my screen with you. I can't share. I've sent a request. Please accept me.
Yes, we can see the screen, Dr. Malik. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much. You can see. Okay. My topic is 20th century Japan observed by 7 Bengali women. This talk emphasizes 7 women: Horiprabha Takeda, Sarojini Datta, Abala Bosu, Shanta Devi, Aparna Devi, Charubala Mitra, and Parul Devi. 7 of them were educated enough, and among them, Sarojini was self-educated, and most of them were from a sophisticated and well-groomed background and from upper strata of Bengali society. Starting with Horiprabha Takeda, she happened to be Horiprabha Mollik before her marriage to Uyemon Takeda. Her parents were Shishubhushan Mollik and Nogendrabala Devi. She was born in Dhaka, Bangladesh. No information is yet found about her institutional education. She was educated enough to write a travelogue on Japan, I can say that. They were followers of Brahmo religion. Horiprabha's parents were progressive and worked specially for women as social activists and had an organization, namely Matriniketan. Horiprabha was married to Uyemon Takeda in 1986. Uyemon Takeda came to Bengal to open a soap factory, firstly as Bulbul Soap Factory, then as it was converted as Dhaka Soap Factory. Firstly, her write-up was published in Bharat Mohila monthly periodicals in 1912 to 1913. Finally, it was published as a book form as Bongo Mohila Japan Jatra. Her voyage to Japan. Horiprabha went to Japan in the year of 1912 for the first time, and then in 1928, and lastly in 1940. And the travelogue she wrote, Bongo Mohila Japan Jatra, was based on her travels took place in 1912. The context of the original book reflects that this was her first visit to Japan in 1912, and the book was solely composed based on her first visit. Some confusing information is also available about Horiprabha, but more research is needed before concluding that. Sarojini Datta. Sarojini was born in Bandel, Hooghly, West Bengal, 9th October 1887. Her parents were Brojendranath De and mother Nagendra Nolini De. They had frequent communication with Brahmo Samaj in those days. She was a feminist, married to famous social activist Guru Sodar Datta. Guru Sodar Datta was renowned for his Brotachari Andolan. Her organization was firstly recognized as Mohila Samiti. Shoro started her Mohila Shomiti at Pabna in 1913, at Birbhum 1916, Sultanpur 1917, Rampurhat 1918, and Darjeeling district 1924. Sarojini was the secretary of Indian section of the Calcutta League of Women's Workers, member of the Council of Nari Shikha Shomiti, and member of the Calcutta Municipal Corporation Committee to make suitable arrangements to promote females. She was also the vice president of the Sylhet Union as association set to promote women education to the Sylhet district. She fought for women's freedom from their veil, burqa. She her women-centered organization had 4 basic activities: to create a space where women will know about their basic human rights, personal hygiene, food and nutrition, vocational training, child rearing, and adult education. In 1924, Sarojini was elected for the secretary of the Calcutta League of Women Workers, and under the supervision of now, after her sudden demise in 1924, her husband Guru Sodai Datta took the initiative to continue her Mohila Shomiti, and they now it is at Kolkata, and the government of West Bengal took the initiative to continue that even till today. From the year of 1972 to 2003, Sarojini's daughter-in-law carried out all the main responsibilities of the association. The association is still existing and they are working for women rights. Voyage to Japan. Sarojini went to Japan in 7th April 1920. Sarojini's write-up in a diary form was published in Bangolokhi Journal. It was published in a book form in 1924 as, I mistaken, it would be 1928 as Japane Bongonari. Shanta Devi. Shanta Devi was born on 1893 at Bankura district, West Bengal, India. Her father was famous Ramananda Chattopadhyay, editor of Modern Review and Probashi periodical. Shanta Devi was also a student of Bethune College and received the Padmavati Award in 1914 for being the first female student who passed Bachelor of Arts. She was excellent in English, Bengali, Hindi, and Sanskrit. The exact date of Shanta Devi's travel to Japan could not be found, but after her return, she wrote her travelogue in 15 fragments, which started in 1938 at Probashi Journal. This seems she went to Japan in 1937 or before 37. Abala Bose. Abala Bose was born on August 8, 1864 in Bangladesh at Borishal. Her father was a social reformer, Durga Mohan Das. They used to live at Telibag, Dhaka. She was married to the renowned scientist Acharya Jagadish Chandra Bose in 1887. Abala studied at Bethune College, and in 1910 she became the principal of Brahmo Balika Vidyalaya and continued the position till 1932. She and her sister Sarola Devi contributed immensely to establishing Gokhel Memorial School. Abala established Nari Shikha Shomiti in 1919. She worked hard to establish an organization, tried to introduce adult primary education for older people. Abala's written article on women and women's education and empowerment were published in the Modern Review Journal. Abala visited several places in India, and once Rabindranath Tagore also accompanied them. Talking about abroad, Abala visited England, Italy, America, France, Germany, and Japan. In 1925, her first travelogue was published after traveling Europe in Probashi magazine titled Bengali Mohilar Prithibi Bhroman. Voyage to Japan. In 1924, they traveled Europe for the 4th time, and at that time in 1915 they started from San Francisco and reached Japan's Yokohama port on April 7. Abala Bose's book Japan Bhroman was not book article was published in Bengali periodical Mukul. After her, Charubala Dev Mitra. It has not been possible to find any biological details about Charubala Mitra, who visited Japan in 1937 to 38 in the pre-war years. Excerpts of the article were published in Bharatbarsha. She does not tell us about her actual journey to Japan, so dates and circumstances of travel is unavailable. The article documents her visit to Jiugakuen, a school for girls founded in 1921 by Yoshikazu, husband and co-worker of Motoko Hani. Aparna Devi. Aparna Devi was born in 1999 in Kolkata. She was uh, the daughter of famous revolutionary Chittaranjan Das and married to barrister Sudhir Chandra Roy in 1916. As far as I found, it was the first inter-caste marriage in Kolkata. She had in-depth knowledge on Vaishnav literature and had a real love for Kirtan. She opened Brojo Madhuri Sangho with literate and elite women. She and her husband visited many countries in Europe and Japan to promote Kirtan worldwide. Among the books she wrote, Deshobandhu Chittaranjan and Kirtan Padaboli were in People's Good Book. Her article Japane Ki Dekhilam was published in 1933 in Bengali periodical Mashik Bosumati. Parul Devi. Parul Devi went to Japan for a very few days. No reliable document is found about the actual date of her visit. Any biography of Parul Devi could not be found in Sangsad Bangla Sahitya Sangi or Sangsad Bangla Charita Bidhan. Some letters were evident that Parul Devi was Rabindranath Tagore's granddaughter, as Rabindranath addressed her as his granddaughter in one of her poems. In a letter to Parul Devi, Rabindranath mentioned Meera Devi as Parul Devi's aunt. So it could be said that Parul Devi was in the Tagore family tree. Japanese society as observed. As we go through the write-ups written by these 7 women, they all visited Japan from 1910 to 1945. Horiprabha was the first person who visited Japan in 1912, then Abala Bose in 1914. After Meiji Restoration, when Japan compared herself with the rest of the world, found herself lagged and tried to become advanced, taking every possible measure. Specifically, when Horiprabha reached Japan for the first time in 1912, the Meiji government had ended its sad legacy. For better understanding, it could be more precise if the perception of these ladies could be compartmentalized based on their observation. Their observation will be discussed here as a whole about Japanese society and culture, where people, social strata, education, Japanese houses, Japanese women, festival, dresses, food, religion, and visited places will be discussed. People. Starting with Horiprabha, her words were written in a diary form. Horiprabha's understanding was Japanese people was also eager to have exposure to foreigners as Indians do here when she went to Japan. Horiprabha, as she mentioned in her book, that many people used to came to her in-laws' house just to visit her. Horiprabha mentioned that all the workers who worked in Japan, in the hotel or the attendants of the ship were so well mannered, they were always attentive about their guests and boarder and their convenience. Horiprabha avoided making remarks on political issues, though she met people like Rajbihari Bose and others during her last visit in 1940. Abala Bose also mentioned the attendees' attentiveness to their borders. She observed and understood it as one of Japan's marketing policies to win passengers' goodwill for the proposed contact and collaboration in future voyages. Swaroj reached Japan in May 14, 1920, and just after only 2 days of staying in Japan, she went to a concert on the 6th of that month, and attending that concert, she was mesmerized witnessing Japanese women and children. She mentioned that those children were extremely well behaved. The mental tranquility of these mothers had been reflected through their children. The experience of listening to shamisen and koto, witnessing tea ceremony, hanami, and meeting geisha was remarkable for her. One thing I have to say that when she went to Japan, the first exposure, she went that concert, and this concert was arranged by some fathers who want to introduce their children as shamisen player or koto player, and the enthusiasm and the joys that was very fascinating for Saroj Nolini, because at those days in Bengal, It was very rare to promote children to sing or play a music or play any musical instrument such as like that. Shanta Devi observed that Japanese people were young and they were very open. Parul Devi mentioned that all the Europe and said people in Europe were not so happy worker as the Japanese were. Sarojnalini, Abala Bosu and Horiprabha found the Japanese greeting system interesting, especially the Japanese bowing culture that Japan practiced for so long, enchanting these ladies. Aparna found that Japanese people are brought up in a sophisticated upbringing. Every society has its section and divisions regarding social stratification. Japan also has its version. According to Horiprabha, there is not such first class, second class compartmentalization inside the train as we have in our countries till today. Comparing this with our own country, she found that Japan did not promote social stratification in the name of race or commodity, though this might be several arguments on that note. Concentrating on the context, Obala also noticed while traveling, Japanese people act in a much more civilized way compared with the other community. Japanese people were well aware that relatives, but all the passengers of their ship were treated equally. Charubala didn't mention their social stratification anything. It is mentioned that the director of the shipping company had invited all of them for dinner where Obala was there, and it could be said that Obala did not notice and never mention any social inequality during her visit. Shantadevi did not touch on this topic. Parul Devi said that they all work together very hard to build a better society. Parul Devi and Shanta Devi stayed there for a short period. Sarojini mentioned in her book directly that Japanese people do not have any social stratification, so they do not hesitate to eat sitting anywhere. However, Sarojini mentioned a first class and second class seating arrangement in Japanese trains. All social stratification is undoubtedly not dependent on seating arrangement inside the train, but most of them mention Japanese train and tram and about the seating arrangement in their works. No more social classification discussion is found in the available texts. Education. Parul Devi visited. Education is the part where most of them concentrated. Parul was a pioneer in that. Shanta Devi also, Abala Devi also, and Aparna Devi, all of them were focused on the main part. They were mesmerized by the education system, especially focusing on the woman. That was the key factor for them. Parul Devi visited some of the Japanese schools and she compared them subconsciously with the schools of her country. She was astonished noticing that the girls' school had a department as laboratory of manners where they teach how to act accordingly and live one's life properly. Charubala Mitra was mesmerized to women's literacy. Both Abala Bose and Horiprabha also noticed this specific idea. Both of them probably visited Doshisha school while traveling to Japan. They found interesting that the schools did not depend on books for education. They were doing each thing practically to make it more understandable. Among these 7 women, Charandrani and Charubala talked much about Japanese education system as she was mesmerized with Japanese initiatives and ideas to educate their children, especially the girl child. Charandrani, Abala, Shanta were social reformers, so they had a personal interest in the Japanese education system and visited several schools to obtain ideas from them. Sarojnalini went to high school for girls. According to Sarojnalini, as students entered from the main gate, there was a large garden and a playing field at the high school. A vast place was allocated for high school girls where students were 750 in number and 30 to 40 teachers were available. Soros noticed that They used to use a skirt on their kimono while drilling. A science laboratory was also located inside the school, and Swaraj was astonished watching the Japanese girls doing their things by themselves and their sincerity towards their study. Doshisha School was an American missionary school at those days. The students of this school were not exceptionally pragmatic for hardcore studies. They found the students doing classes for domestic science. The number of students was 600, and among them 200 were the school boarders, Japanese houses. Regarding Japanese houses, Shanta Devi had mentioned in her write-up that a small garden is indispensable in Japanese houses. According to her, Japanese houses without a simple touch of a garden is sparse. Parul Devi once visited someone's place and mentioned that Japanese houses are immaculate. No dust can be found anywhere, and they do not use sandals inside their house. They are significantly sincere about their cleanliness. Abala Bose also discussed Japanese houses similarly, such as wooden houses, significantly clean and perfectly organized household with household materials. Sarojini Dutta described Japanese houses which were decorative but not ornamental. Charles mentioned that Japanese houses are not complete without a small place of wooden and unnecessarily furniture was banned in Japanese houses. She mentioned that Tokonoma and about the place where they placed their ikebana, though Soros was unaware of the Japanese words but mentioned those. She and Horiprabha successfully felt the pulse of Japanese sense of beauty witnessing those houses. Horiprabha was married to a Japanese national. She could see Japanese houses and household things much more closely than the others as a Japanese person's wife. She used some Japanese words very casually, which is relatable to her situation. She also mentioned that their well-furnished houses were unnecessary things which were strictly avoided. Shoes were not allowed inside their houses, and she described that their houses did not resemble the conception of the house we had prior to our mindset. Women of Japan. Both Shanta Devi and Parul Devi mentioned that Japanese women were spontaneous and hardworking. Parul Devi said in her write-up that Japanese women could work like 4 men at a time with a happy face. Shanta Devi also mentioned Japanese women's sense of beauty and their hospitality. Precisely, Japanese women were comparatively empowered to some extent compared to their expanse at those days. Horiprabha also mentioned that position of Japanese women inside their society. She said that Japanese women do not have any constriction in their freedom. According to Horiprabha, Japanese women are free, happy-go-lucky, but if their mother-in-law is unhappy with them, the marriage could reach its end easily. Shauruz mentioned in her book that India had a trend to marry young little girls at the age of 15 to 16, but Japanese ladies are married at 23, 22 or 23, but none of them remains unmarried. Shauruz found this very interesting. She felt disappointed when she noticed all the girls' children were liberated and appropriately educated. Shauruz tended to compare her country with the country she had visited, and while comparing the literacy rate with Japan, she found it frustrating. Festivals. Soros attended a Japanese festival named Omikoshi, the Roth Hinduism, when she was there. And Omikoshi is a all know about Omikoshi. I don't say much about it. Sharon also watched Japanese drama. From her description and the photo she shared in this book, it could be said that it was kabuki that she had seen, and she mentioned that the drama has some resemblance with Bengali Jatrapala. Horiprabha was there with her in-laws at the time of Japanese New Year festival. She penned in her write-up that Japanese people enjoy significantly at the time of their New Year festival. They pray for a good year, play kite flying, wear new clothes, and enjoy for at least 7 days. It seems that they try to enjoy and gather energy for the entire year by enjoying their most important festival. Abala was mentioned about cherry blossom also. Abala also said that Japan is a land of natural beauty and they are the worshipper of nature. It is they're ready to rest of the world with her enchanting beauty. In a word, Japan is unique. Moreover, Obala revealed that Japanese culture with two separate festivals for boys and girls. Obala witnessed these two festivals while staying in Japan, and she said that the fish Japanese people hang on the top of their household as one of the custom of these festivals were colorful, fascinating, and captivating. Parul Devi also joined this cherry blossom festival residing there, and she elaborated it as that the time of cherry blossom people got keenly festive and enjoyed uh, their life thoroughly during the spring festival. Shanta Devi introduced many aspects of Japan, but she did not mention about Japanese festival. Dress and food. All these women talked about Japanese dresses and their get-ups as kimono was so original, eye-catching and very Japanese. Those who get in touch with Japanese custom never forgot to mention Japanese dresses, and Geta originally cited in her book that in a concert she found Japanese women wearing kimonos which attracted her the most, especially the obi. Sharon noticed that the more money they had and the more expensive their obi was. Another thing Sharon noticed that Japanese women is that they were significantly concerned about choosing their kimono colors. The women were well aware of the fact while selecting colors of the kimono in combining their age, status, and complexion. Saroj, in her book, mentioned that the young girl wearing kimonos and wandering around were just like butterflies from one flower to another. However, sometimes loud colors were very appreciated. Sometimes Saroj found their hair extremely ornamental. Horiprabha also mentioned their obi uses. Horiprabha noticed that Japanese women use something relatively different than a pillow for sleeping to ensure that their hairstyle remains unfussy and to refrain from being messy. Horiprabha contributed more by saying that Japanese people usually do not use ornaments but like to decorate their hair with fancy hairpins and hairbands. They use flowers also for decorating their hair, especially the young generation. Obala said that she did not like Japanese dresses at all. Their dresses were clean and well suited, but those were not very beautiful. Shantadevi and Parul Devi also said almost the same thing about Japanese dresses like the others, especially Parul Devi stated about obi and their colorful kimonos. Regarding Japanese food, Sarojini stated Japanese food was terrible for her. The taste of Japanese fishes and the scent from Japanese cuisine demanded Sarojini to be accustomed to. Sarojini said superlative about Japan throughout her travelogue, but Saroj disliked Japanese food. Horiprabha did not convey her thought about Japanese food as Saroj did, but it was Horiprabha's in-laws' house, so she got the chance to cook on her own, and she did that also. And some places she also mentioned about we can understand that food was a significant for a little, and she had her food with Bengali. Tasted Japanese green tea several times, which tasted bitter to her. Japanese people wore Japanese dresses for the lower part and Western dresses for the upper portion. Moreover, they used to wear a hat with their dresses and an overcoat for the winter session, which was funny to observe. All these fashions were nothing but a mimic of the Western culture, according to her. Ladies started using scarves along with their kimono. Their shoes were also changed along with the new breeze from the western part. Shantadevi did not talk much about Japanese cuisine, but Abala both mentioned authentic Japanese cuisine, rice, fish, and pickles. Horiprabha, Sarojini, and Abala mentioned that Japanese people were not accustomed to dessert with dairy products, and this was very much astonishing for Bengali people, that having dessert which do not contain dairy product. The three of them mentioned that Japanese desserts were made with rice and sweet beans in their writings. Religion. These women repeatedly visited Japanese temples and shrines, but some delivered a detailed analysis of the temples and goddesses. After visiting several sacred places, Shantadevi found some resemblance with Hindu goddesses with the Japanese version. Sarojini also mentioned that Japan was very sincere to protect its heritage and tangible cultures like temples and shrines. Saroj compared this with the condition of their homeland and felt frustrated again that Indian people are unaware and reluctant about these things, according to her. Horiprabha and Parul were from the same religious background. Both practiced the Brahmo religion, though they didn't know or met each other, but both visited several Japanese temples and shrines and understood the necessity of God, and both of them had mentioned that Shantadevi was from a different background, and the things she had observed were focused on Buddhist goddesses who have a resemblance with Indian deities. Abala, Aparna, and Charubala did not put much light on the religious side. Places visited. Some, from the point of natural beauty, Sarojini found Japan exceptionally aesthetic and artistic. Especially Parul mentioned that the love and respect for their motherland make the land more beautiful, gorgeous, and stunning. Abala mentioned that Japan as the heaven of natural beauty, but did not mention any specific visited place inside Japan. From some sources, it is visible that Jagadish Chandra Bose delivered his speech at Waseda University, so it could be said that they visited Waseda University once. Among them, Sarojini visited the most. Parul Devi mentioned visiting Osaka, where they enjoyed cherry dance, and remarked Tokyo, Kobe, Kyoto, and Nara as her visited places.
Dr. Malik, you have another minute to wrap
yes.
up. Okay.
Okay. Okay, I have to, as I have to wrap up, they visited these places, and if I conclude here, so I have to say that what all these three if I go to the at the starting point where I started, that all of them were educated and sophisticated background, and they had exposure to the things happening to India at that time also. And what was the spark, and what were they were trying to find out? They according to me, they were longing for decades to get freedom from the Western world and redefine the boundaries of self with the others. Other one, Japan was an alternative modernity for these ladies. Pan-Asianism was dominant in their mindset. That is also important. And Japan, to them, what to say? To them, excluding Western world, they were trying to find a role model which is in Asia, and Japan seemed to them as a role model. Thank you so much. I conclude here.
Thank you, Dr. Malik. I'm so sorry to hurry you up, but we have a specific time frame in which we must conduct a meeting. I would like to open the talk now for any questions or comments from the audience, and after that I will give my concluding remarks. So if any of the listeners would like to make a rejoinder or a point or or ask a question, please go ahead. There seems to be no one raising their hand. So maybe I can just make a few comments myself while people gather their thoughts.
Devjani, I think Dr.
Is there somebody who has raised his hand?
Mitsuko Takahashi, Miss Mitsuko Takahashi, she has raised her hand.
Oh, okay. I'm so sorry, I did not see that. Can you please go ahead?
And Dr. Jain has also raised his hand.
Okay. Please go ahead.
Mitsukoshi-san, go ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Jane. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to ask question to Dr. Malik. This is very interesting, and then I, as a Japanese woman, listen to this, historical Indian woman's adventure. It's really fun to listen to. Thank you very much. Having said that, I have two questions and comments. One, I think Bengali people are a little different from other areas, particularly in the literature. They're very much advanced, and then they have a very how can I say hot temper, and probably they're challenging people. That's my understanding. But what is your the explanation about Bengali ethos? That's one. And secondly, it is fascinating to understand that those Indian ladies who visited Japan, 100 years ago, find that the Japanese women are, kind of advanced or something like that. But currently Japan and in India are competing the bottom of the gender disparity. I think so. Those days, 100 years ago, Japanese women are not liberated at all, I think. And then still, Japanese women are not, contributing compared with the North European countries. I think this is a challenge for us. So how do you explain the observation of those Indian ladies 100 years ago, and then still India and Japan, female, social status is not too much improved? If you have any, analysis or explanation, I'm happy to listen to it. Thank you very much.
Should I answer now?
Dr. Jain, Dr. Malik, would you like to take two questions together? Dr. Jain is also here, so maybe you could take both the questions together.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just have two observations. One is about women's position, which was mentioned. I think the women's position as narrated by the visitors was not comparing their position vis-a-vis workplace. They were just impressed by the freedom that they have of movement, and that they found very different from existing situation in India. So I think they were not describing women in the present day context, where we find that they are gender bias and so on and so forth. That's one observation. The second is about the motivation of these women to visit Japan, because some of them were traveling around the world, not specifically going to Japan. Japan happened to be en route. So it is not clear to me whether they were really attracted by the upcoming Asian nation, or they just happened to be passing through Japan. It doesn't come out clearly. So to interpret, I think that they were looking for Japan as a leading Asian country is not really supported much in the presentation. These two observations. Thank you.
Dr. Malik, can you please
Yes.
give your
Yes,
responses?
Yes. Thank you so much for your question. If I go with the book written by Sarojini Dotto, we have to remember that it was 100 years back, and that time it for the Bengali people and Bengali community, we know very well that at those days normally girls got married at the year of 12 or 13 or 14. And what Sushila ma'am said at when we started, that that was the time of the social taboo, kalapani. And that time, if we compare to that time, it is clear that seeing someone free, the essence of freedom, the sense of freedom, that was actually mesmerizing. So far, I consider. And according to Ashok Jain sir, thank you for your question. Yes, none of them they did not have the right to select where they could go or visit. They didn't have that. But you said rightly that they happened to be there. Aparna Devi, she went. She was the daughter of Chittaranjan Das, and she went with her husband. Sarojini was the same. Shanta Devi was the same. I don't know much about Charubala. I didn't get enough. And Hariprabha, she was the wife of Ueman Takeda. So they didn't choose, but incidentally, when they faced Japan, they found, and so far I read, I found that the spark of what to say, freedom movement was inside their. I'm not very good in English, I'm sorry. Inside their mind, and they were Sarojini were directly contacted to them. Hariprabha also, and Shantadevi also. Last time when Shantadevi went to Japan, she met many people. Among them, she R. Kimura and Yone Noguchi, all of them were there. And if you read the text, you could get that yeah, they were thriving for freedom.
Okay.
And they found Japan as a role model.
Good. Thank you so much. Yes.
We have two hands raised, one by Shushma Jain, ma'am, and I think Shushila ji had also raised her hand.
May I?
Shushma ji, please go ahead.
I'm Sushma. Hello, Lopamudra. Thank you for that very interesting presentation. There is just one observation and curiosity. Of course, I'm impressed by these Bengali ladies who visited Japan. They were lucky to have visited and witnessed the cherry blossom hanami, and of course, Hina Matsuri festival and Koinobori Children's Day. Yes, so it was very nice that they went at such a time, and they had keen observation about the Japanese women's aesthetics. Not only women, the Japanese culture, their very refined aesthetic tastes. To have noticed that their kimonos were matched according to the season and age and etc. But as Takahashi-san also mentioned, did these ladies, these women, mention about the women writers of Japan at that time? Because there is Higuchi Ichio, a very well-known, very famous woman writer. In fact, her picture is there on 5,000 yen note. I think it still has. Then there is Hiratsuka Raicho. She started a magazine called Seito, which was a platform for these women writers and feminist writers for their activities. There is Yosano Akiko. She was a social reformer. I'm just curious because these Bengali women also was in their own way writers and social workers. Did they mention these writers or their works? And also, what these women, was there a follow-up of their newly acquired knowledge from Japan that they followed? They did something when back in India? I mean, just a curiosity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sensei. So far, I read their write-ups, their pieces. They didn't encounter any Japanese literature, 7 of them. And the second one, yes, Shorznerly learned the culture from there, from Japan, and she took it from there to India, Kolkata. And I hope that in that organization, in the name of Sorojnarani Memorial Trust, and they are still working for upgrading women and those who needed support. Thank you.
I think.
Thank you.
Any other responses or queries?
May I ask, Devjan?
Yes, Shoshilaji, please go ahead.
Lokmudra, you mentioned about Hari Prabha's Bongo Mohilar. I've read that book, but she went number of times and she wrote another travelogue or book when she visited Japan during wars. I think Juddo Jorjorito Japane or something. I have not read that. Did her perceptions undergo changes then? And did she, I mean, because earlier she was mesmerized and she praises Japan. Any changes you see in her perception?
Sensei, I didn't get that book yet.
Okay.
I will work on this.
Okay.
Are there any other responses? Because we are actually running out of time, and there have been a very interesting interaction between Dr. Malik and the attendees of this meeting. And a number of points were raised, I think, which I'm going to touch very briefly for a minute or two, because Dr. Jain's intervention that most of these women actually happened to go to Japan on the way to their travels, to accompanying their spouse, is actually not really true in case of Hari Prabhat Takeda. Hari Prabhat Takeda actually decides to go to Japan. Her own family actually dissuades her and tells her that, it's a very long and arduous journey and she should not be taking it. But she's determined that she's going to meet her Japanese in-laws. So there is a certain agency, which I find in Hari Prabha's memoir, which is very, very remarkable. And I think this agency is also to be seen in the larger context of the rising Japan as a center of Pan-Asianism, which Dr. Malik talks about. I think this is a very important point that she mentions, and I think this begins from 1904, 1905, after the Russo-Japanese War, and and particularly Japan becoming a center of a kind of Asian modernity. So earlier, if you look at the later 19th or early 20th century travelers from India, they were mainly interested in going to Europe, because Europe was the center of, enlightenment, modernity, and sophistication. But it is in the early years of the 20th century that we begin to see that this is shifting. And Japan becomes a center of great interest, not only to writers, but also to Indian nationalists. Rashbihari Bose, who escapes to Japan in 1915. But of course, Tagore. Let us not forget Tagore's many travels to Japan and his writings on Japan, including, his very famous travelogue, Japan Jatri. And the fact that this kind of idea of pan-Asianism, where India was actually looking at an alternative kind of modernity, which is different from the European colonial modernity that we had got. And to answer, maybe address Shushmaji's very interesting question about the question of women and aestheticization of their lives and culture, and whether they carried something back, I think this has to be seen in the context of where these women were located. All these women were located in the reformist Brahmo Samaj movement, where Stri Shadhinata, or women's empowerment, was a very, very important aspect of national work. So national work was not just going to the parliament or going on dharna or doing the boycott. National work was also working for the less privileged women of society. And I think most of the work of these women, these remarkable women, please understand how remarkable these women were, who have traveled so many thousands of miles, to face a culture without knowing the language. I don't think, Dr. Malik, any of them knew Japanese. None of them knew Japanese. But the fact that they were so curious about Japan talks of a wider nationalistic impulse, where the empowerment of women becomes a very, very important question in front of them. So I think one of the early questions that was raised by Miss Takahashi about whether, the women who at that time in Japan, or women writers in that time in Japan, were they sort of interested in that? I think they were interested in the larger women's question. The larger women's question, where women were seen to be not as simply passive citizens, but very active participants. I think that was something they took back with them. And if you look at their later works as reformers or as reformists, or work in women's education, I think that is something that they carried, very strongly with them. The fact that contemporary Indian women who got married early, who was deeply steeped in patriarchal values, were, in a sense, much lower in that sense, in certain freedoms which they envisaged that Japanese women had. Dr. Jain?
Yes, I must thank Devjani Singh Gupta, Professor, because it's precisely that what you raised is the theme of the March conference. Myself and Sushila ji are quite aware of the fact that the nationalistic movement, especially in the Bengal, had a great fascination for Japan.
Yeah.
And therefore, all those people during that period is the theme of March conference.
Oh, wonderful. Please do share.
Exactly.
Please do share the
Yes, of
call
course.
for papers and everything. I would be
Yes,
very
certainly.
interested.
Yes. And in fact, I'm glad that you raised this, though you raised it as a counter to my intervention. But it's that intervention precisely which we have evoked the March conference. And we have around 18 to 20 excellent papers during that period.
Right.
And many of them are coming from Bengalis.
Okay.
So we are trying to coordinate. I mean, this is the time where I can mention that we are making Dhaka University as a very active participant in that conference, followed by another conference in Nepal on the same issue. So
Right.
there are two conferences that we are planning, but this theme and this period is extremely exciting.
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
agree with you totally.
Thank you.
So, Shushila-ji, can you take over now?
Thank you, Devjani, and thank you, Lokmitra, for a very interesting presentation. And it was really wonderful having Devjani as the chair and listening to her comments and valuable insights. In fact, let me tell you that there are 5 lectures lined up only on Bengal-Japan interactions. And in August, Professor Somdatta Mandal,
Right.
formerly from Vishwa Bharati Shanti Niketan.
Yeah.
And September, Professor Abhijit Gupta, he is from Jadavpur University. And then October, Professor Julie Banerjee Mehta, she was formerly in University of Toronto. And November, Dr. Pratyay Banerjee, Prantpali School, Kolkata. December, Dr. Tiyasha Chakma, Kushtia, Bangladesh. And January, Mr. Arindam Goswami.
Wonderful.
So
that's
we
a
have
great
so many-
lineup. That's a great lineup.
Great, and we may have more. In fact, that's why Dr. Jain said that we may have an exclusive conference only on Bengal, Japan.
I'm very delighted.
So thank you all very much. And I hope to see you during Dr. Somdatta Mandal's presentation, same time via Zoom. And thank you all the other participants who have joined us via Zoom. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Goodbye.
Namaste.
And thank
Bye.
you, Dr. Malik. It
Thank you
was
so much.
wonderful to listen to you.
Thank you so much.